Hey gang, follow-up video from the last one. Is muscle building more about endurance rather than just brute strength? And a couple of points that I needed to bring up to you guys because you're giving me all sorts of great information. You guys rock. I love everything that you're putting down in the comments section. Number one is this idea keeps coming up now. Someone sent me an article along the lines of what I'm thinking, but there was a very important part of how an exercise feels is incredibly important. I could not agree more because muscle tension is a sensory experience. As I explained in my book, every single thing about all success in exercise depends upon how your brain talks to your muscle. And there's a cycle of information going on here. Your brain sends information to your muscle, and then based on what your muscle and your body's doing, information is coming back to your brain. And this is happening lightning quick, very, very fast reflex, but everything you want from your exercise is 100% dependent on what this signal is going on. If you're not focusing and paying attention to that signal, your workout is literally a roll of the dice on whether or not you're going to get the results that you want. I don't care what your numbers say. I don't care what your weight lifted. I don't care what your technique looks like. I don't care what your program is. If you're not focusing on this, you are leaving a huge amount of potential on the table. The way I look at it, it's like if you're not paying attention to how an exercise actually feels and what it's the sensation of your exercise, that's like a 5-star chef who can't taste anything, who refuses to taste their dish, and they're relying on dogmatic ideas of always put in a ton of salt or always put in a lot of hot sauce or whatever. It doesn't matter what you're doing, just do that. Of course, that would be a horrible way to cook things. But when we're ignoring the sensory experience, when we don't want to become a connoisseur of our own muscle tension, we are like that chef. So pay attention to how does an exercise feel. And as far as I'm concerned, the entire goal of every exercise of all kinds that I ever do is how do I make this feel better? How do I put more tension? How do I feel my chest more in my push-ups? How do I push my legs so that I've got tension over the whole leg when I'm riding my bike rather than just in one part of my quads or whatever? The sensory experience of the muscle tension at this stage in the game is the only reason for all training as far as I'm concerned, because if you can get that to feel differently, everything else is going to fall into place. The second thing I want to push is this idea of people are asking like, well, endurance kind of thing. What are we talking about endurance? I'm not talking like if you go out and run 18 miles, you're going to build more muscle than if you do a set of squats with a heavy barbell or something. Different kinds of endurance. I'm talking about the actual endurance of the muscle fibers themselves. If I go out and just ride my mountain bike for 5 hours, I'm going to be really tired and my legs are going to be really tired, but that's a different kind of tired. What we're doing is we're talking about pushing the muscular fatigue and not just pushing more reps. Like the big thing I want to really hone in is the idea of, yes, adding resistance is still important. I'm not saying if you just do the same exercise with the same resistance and just add volume exponentially, you're going to build muscle. You want to build up the volume and then build up the tension, then build up the volume on that and then build up the tension. The big question I get a lot of times is how do I know when to increase this amount of tension? Well, here's the strategy that I'm starting to use. Maybe this is going to help you. Take a resistance or a certain technique and whatnot, build up the volume as much as you can for 3 sets, 2 sets, whatever. But once you're struggling to really improve upon the volume, that's when you increase the tension. Don't worry about your reps. Don't worry about, am I doing this long enough and when am I ready? When you stop making progress on the endurance side of things, then add tension and then increase the volume there. Now, the ability to add tension, I'm not saying do a big jump in combat condition. I'm saying just bring a little more tension in the chest. Maybe bring the hands a little tiny bit closer or push a little more weight onto one hand or whatever. Just a little bit of tension. I'm not saying you have to make a big jump forward. But that's a kind of the tip that I've been using lately. It's been working great. So when you stop making forward progress with volume, then you add tension and then you repeat the process. So hopefully that gives you some more information on that video. Check out the video if you haven't yet. Is muscle building more about endurance than just brute strength? Thoughts down below. Be fit, live free.